I've been training under the guidance of my own AI coach, Aisha, the one I built for the past 2 months. And even as a half-broken AI coach, it taught me a lot more than it would have taught me if it was a perfectly working AI. And in this video, I'm going to share 3 fundamental lessons I learned and you can apply to your training starting from tomorrow. Lesson number 1, warm up. I was one of those runners that used to go to the track and start running. And I could put my money on it, you probably do that too. Warm up is boring, but also it's incredibly important, probably as important as the run itself, for 2 main reasons. Reason number 1, it wakes up your body. It wakes up your muscles, it wakes up your tendons, and especially if you are an early runner like me, it really helps getting you in shape for the actual run. Reason number 2, it wakes up your cardio system. Jogging before the run slightly elevates your heart rate so that when you actually start running, you're in optimal range for the run itself, and you don't have to get to the optimal range while you're running. That will give you roughly 1 to 2 kilometers of quality training extra that you're probably not getting if you're not doing the warm-up. I'll try to make it a bit easier for you. I'm Italian, I really love cooking. So let's pretend we are baking a loaf of bread. The first thing I do is preheat the oven. The reason why it's very important to preheat the oven is because if you put the loaf of bread in the oven while it's cold, it's going to cook unevenly, it's not going to rise, it's just not going to come out as good. And it's basically the same concept as for the running. I usually do about 5 to 10 minutes of warm-up, a light jog, and that's probably more than enough for any type of run really. Lesson number 2, the device. So we are baking the bread. Let's pretend we are still warming up the oven. And let's also pretend the thermometer that controls the thermostat is misplaced. So it's going to signal a lower temperature. By the time the thermostat signals that the oven is ready, the actual temperature of the oven is probably going to be a much higher temperature that you need to bake the bread. So when you bake the bread, it's going to completely come out burnt. A wrist tracker works kind of in a similar way. So the way it reads the heart rate, it just flashes the green light that you see on the back of the watch into your skin. It bounces off the blood, and when it comes back as basically a pulse reading. But when the wrist is misplaced and it's kind of loose, it moves, it could either lock to the cadence, the pace, or it could just give poor numbers, just invent numbers. In one of the cases, one of my runs, it was reading between 120 and 130, and then by I think K5, K6, it spiked to 170, and it didn't make any sense to me because I was like, what's going on? And that was exactly because it was misplaced. It was loose, and it wasn't reading. And then when the cardio system got warm enough and it started reading, it was reading the correct pulse and it was spiking to the correct heart rate. So what I did, and this has been working consistently for the past month or so, I just clip it higher. I clip it higher in the wrist, let's say around here, and I always get a consistent correct reading. But the best thing you can do is just to buy a chest strap. This is probably what I'm going to do next. It just makes the readings a lot more accurate, and I don't have to worry about where the watch is placed and use the watch only to look at the pace and the distance. Lesson number 3. And it's the biggest one, the one that changed the way I trained, LT1. There are tens of ways to train for a marathon, and they are all scientifically backed, they are all legit, and most of all, they all work. Some runners prefer something called threshold training. In threshold training, you basically go at a faster pace progressively by lowering your heart rate over time, and that's one of the fastest way to get results. And I can see that as cooking food in the microwave. Cooking food in the microwave is very, very fast, but because the microwave cooks the food in an uneven way, you risk of getting burned without expecting it. Another common way of training for marathon is high effort training, which is very similar to threshold training. It's just at a faster pace and a higher effort. And like I said, they all work, but there is something they have in common, which is a higher risk of injuries, especially for beginner runners, which is what actually happened to me. Before finding out about LT1 training, I was doing threshold training, and I've done threshold training since the beginning of times. And there is something that always stopped me from getting to my goals, which was injuries. Even small injuries that kept me out of running for months. And this time is different because LT1 is virtually injuries free. So the way it works, it gets you go faster progressively by maintaining your effort always at the same level. For example, for me, when I started LT1 training, my easy pace was around 7:15 per kilometer at a heart rate range of 150, 157. And today, my pace at the same heart rate range is 640, around 640, which is a lot faster. And the effort is always the same. But how does it work? It makes you go faster by going slower. It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? So basically, your body renovates itself. So let's go back to the kitchen example. You can see this as changing your kitchen into a bakery. And you do that by only doing 4 big upgrades. Upgrade number 1 is basically buying a bigger dough mixer, and more dough means more bread that you can cook. And that's what your heart does. Your heart learns how to be efficient in pumping blood, so it can pump more blood at every beat, and more blood means more oxygen. And ultimately, the oxygen is what your body uses to create energy. Second upgrade, you hire more bakers. You have more dough to deliver to the oven, so you hire more bakers to do that. And that's what your body does. Your body creates new blood vessels inside the muscles to be able to deliver the oxygen more efficiently. And like I said before, your body uses oxygen to create energy. Upgrade number 3, more bakers means more ovens. You buy more ovens to bake more bread. And that's the third thing your body does. It creates more and bigger tiny little ovens called mitochondria, which is the small part of the cell where the energy is generated. And they work very efficiently thanks to the other 2 upgrades we spoke about before. Mitochondria need oxygen in order to burn fuel to create energy. And your body doesn't have to revert to a different way of creating energy just by burning sugar. That would be like maxing out the oven capacity so that you have to use your outdoor wood fire oven to bake the rest of the bread. Upgrade number 4, you swap your fuel source from wood to gas or electricity, which is most available. When you run at a lower effort, your body naturally tends to feed on fat rather than sugar. And because it requires less amount of fat for the same amount of energy, it makes the whole system a lot more efficient. These 4 upgrades make your body a super efficient endurance machine. And it's going so well that Aisha has decided to prolong the phase 1 of my training, which is the base building, from 10 to 14 weeks so that I can build an even more solid base. And if you're interested into how I started this type of training, then I recommend this.